Good afternoon, Eric. This is Nick from Trader PhD with Eric with another weather update. Eric, what you wanted to kick things off a little bit with the medium to longer term weather pattern we've got going on.
Yeah,
Let's start there.
yeah. It's funny. The thing I'm getting asked the most about right now is snow. Like everybody wants to know, is it going to snow? Is it going to snow heavy? And so I thought we should just talk a bit about that because, to be honest, I wouldn't mind some November and early December snow if we can get it to melt, get this back into the soil, and that's going to be the big question. So, right now, what we're dealing with really strong winds coming across the plains. So we're going to expect here very soon to see wind gusts, especially back in the western plains, probably 50, 60 miles an hour. And on the northern side of it, this is going to be our first round of snow that's going to end up with some lake effect snow afterward. We have severe weather going on to the south. In fact, there was a tornado warning in parts of southeastern Texas earlier today. And that's kind of where the tail end of our severe weather is. But it's been interesting. I've had a ton of people. If you look at this satellite data, let's see if I can go back to this morning. You can almost see it, but not really well. So this is the big system here, and underneath it, there's a lot of very dense fog here. You can see some of it in the southeast. Actually, you can see better fog here over the Rockies and some in the Central Valley of California. And I've been getting asked a ton, Nick, about the 90-day fog rule. A lot of times that 90-day fog rule that you're going to get
Oh
rain
yeah,
90 days after your fog, it's a bit of a
oh yeah.
yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that but there's some merit to it. We did have some moisture return to some of these areas, which is helping to bring up the ability to get these fogs, plus the fact that we've had these huge, what we call diurnal day to night temperature swings have allowed us to get into some deep fog. But the reality is over the last 7 days, this is the way the pattern's gone. We've had low pressure centers that have been what we call cutoff lows come through California. They go through Arizona, they sneak through here, and they exit through the east. Now that means there's a huge chunk of the country here that's missed out on a lot of this precipitation, as has part of the Canadian prairie. And the southeast has been pretty dry as well. If you look at some of the stats, I mean, this is the month to date precipitation ranks. And if you come down to the lower Mississippi Valley where it's raining today, thank goodness, it's been dry. The southeast has been dry. The upper Midwest has been dry. Parts of the northern plains have been dry. It's only really been California into Arizona that's seen excessive precipitation. But, lately we brought up some of the precip stats in a few of these areas. Now, Nick, the reason why I talk about it is because if you're playing a mind game here and you say, what if that still looks that way in March?
Hmm.
This is a major red flag for every place to the north of it for drought risk. So we care a lot about the Cotton Belt for many reasons, but if you're a Corn Belt guy, you should care about the Cotton Belt for your drought risk going forward, especially given the soil moisture. I mean, before we started recording this was a major thing you and I were chatting about. We've got very low, subsurface soil moisture values across much of the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes states, and down here across the whole of the South. And it only recently started to come back up in this little narrow corridor in between because of the storm systems last week. But, Nick, the concern here is this is a lot of the drainage basin for the Missouri, the Mississippi, and part of the Ohio River. And then when they all come together down there in Memphis, we're still about 3 feet below low stage. And we've been there, here's where low stage is. We've been there since August, honestly, well, late August. And it's been bumbling around, and we have questions. Are we, like last year, going to recover in December and January? The river did make a recovery, and it was flooding by the time we got into April and May last year, or this year, excuse me, 2025. So we're going to try to figure that out as we go forward in the forecast because these last 60 days, I mean, look at the shades of red on this. Those are locations that have really been missing out on meaningful precipitation, and we don't want to lock with cold air, all of this dry soil in place. That gets scary. And the reason is this. I'll just try to write over it. 60%. 60% of the time that you lock a fall drought into the ground with frozen soils, you have
Hmm.
drought there next spring. It makes it all the way to the spring. So where are we going to go with this forecast? Well, I want to show you the winds. Let's go have a look at them just so you can see how strong the winds are going to be for these next two systems. Look at that. I mean, that's a broad section of the country. So if your leaves aren't down yet, they're going to be coming down soon.
They're gonna be.
Get
That's
ready
right.
for that. But we've got severe weather to the south and our heaviest rains down there. And I was keeping an eye on it. Here's the low, the first of a few lows coming in the next 10 days. And this is the one producing the severe weather and the tornado warnings down here. But remember, we needed the rain down here. This is that drier area to our south. Well, I always say to our ass south because I'm in Illinois. So I
Oh
watch
yeah.
this carefully down here. But a lot of severe weather, a lot of lightning with these storms going on right now, as you can see. And this is where we think they're going to track. Now, as that
No,
system skirts through the
no,
mid-south,
no,
yeah,
it's severe. That's severe weather. Is there
uh-huh.
actually very much accumulation coming with it though, or is it all wind and storm type stuff, or
No,
is there actually?
there's good accumulation. And the reason is if you look at the direction the storms are traveling, they're kind of going back and forth like this. So
Hmm.
versus going straight west to east versus more southwest to northeast, the storm spends more time over a given area. So this is good. This is going to be, they need these rains pretty bad given how dry it's been.
Okay.
Yeah. So here you go. Let's go look at it. We play it forward. That system moves through the mid-south, brings some rain into Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, into the, eastern Corn Belt. But look behind it. Got some snow coming through out of Montana into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Heavy snows, I think, going to head up into parts of Ontario. In fact, we look at how much total snow's coming out of this. As I show you this, everywhere that you start to see that blue shading show up, that's at least 4 inches of snow. So the models are putting down the first of a couple of systems of snow. But I'll tell you, everybody wants to know the next one. So if I let this pick up on Wednesday, here is your Thanksgiving Day forecast. So
Hmm.
we got a lake effect on the backside, a low off the the Pacific Northwest coast. Most of the country gets away with a decent day in terms of precip, unless you're in those two areas, but it will be very cold in the middle. But watch this system coming over the mountains here. Ready? As it goes through, I'm paying attention more to the Euro in this case. It goes through Idaho, Montana, shows up
Ooh, look
somewhere
at
into
that.
Iowa. Yeah.
Oh
And
no.
then and then it dives. It goes right through Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and exits through the Northeast. Now, you can clearly see that the GFS, which is over here on the left, doesn't look anything
Hmm.
like it. It's way later in trying to bring a storm system through. And it's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, you get two entirely different solutions. Like that's a 7 day snowfall map from the European model. And my kids are like, yes, 16.1 inches at my house. And here's the GFS, which now has 0 inches at my house and all the heavy snow up here in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin.
So that's why. Okay, so I'm visiting family right now. And,
Yeah.
there's probably many other people that are going back home, obviously to visit family. Some producers maybe have their kids coming in, whatever that type of thing. Anyway, so traveling home next weekend. That's why my
Yeah.
weather app keeps flipping around from 6 inches of snow to zero
Yep.
because it's trying to handle this modeling.
Yeah. And then the problem with all of this is that I'll show you this. This is kind of fun. If I go to, this is one of my favorite websites, earth.nullschool.net. I'm going to take you away from this and come through the country in order for it to be there. So we just don't have a good handle on it yet. And as you saw, well, that's the GFS. Let's see. This is the new artificial intelligence model. And this is the blend of models. See how they're all just kind of giving you a different solution on the
Yeah.
snowfall. So what I've been relying on is kind of the probabilities. Okay. So what are the chances of getting certain amounts of snow? So this is the chance of 3 inches. This goes through Wednesday. Now, as I keep adding in Thursday and now Friday, watch what happens in the weekend. This is Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Boom.
Monday. See how it starts to
Yeah.
increase.
Yeah.
But, we could get it in through here, but the heaviest snows, this is now the chance of getting 6 inches is pretty far to the north. But I cannot discount this area just yet. That's the main takeaway point.
Hmm.
There's another side to this, and it is who's dry. So this map, flip, same color scheme, but flip the idea. This is showing who has the highest chances of staying under a half inch. And that's a lot of the Western Plains. It's a lot of the Southeast. It's almost all of the Canadian prairie. And after weeks of California being wet, it's going over dry, which means there's something changing in the pattern that's worth talking about. And we can start to see it here. This is a big ridge that's building into the Gulf of Alaska. And that's going to be the ridge that punches all of the warm air up into Alaska that forces it to dive into the central United States. And as a result, as it does so, even out there in week 2, so this would be December 2nd to the 8th, we see the West Coast trending drier, but a lot of the central US has got better chances than not than seeing some precip. And we think that may look like that through much of December. That is the newest forecast from the European model on the December precipitation pattern. And Nick, I'd love it if this happened. I mean, this is good. You see a little bit of dryness on the West Coast, but remember, they've been wet.
Hmm.
It's not like it's a massive problem, but there's a lot of good about this should this happen. So that's a near-term temp or precipitation outlook. Before I get to temperatures, anything else you want to think about or talk about with that precip outlook?
I guess you're going to talk about a little bit of temperature a little bit next, but as far as precip goes, no, I think that'll probably move on from there.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is where we've been with temperatures. So it's been very mild for the most part of the month of November. So that's the month to date November, month to date temperature ranks. But that's our frost risk over the next 7 days. So we are way down here, almost to I-10. I mean, that's getting pretty far south. And then we got this for temperatures. So, long story short, enjoy the next few days. That's Monday,
Hmm.
Tuesday, Wednesday. There's your first big push of cold air the day before Thanksgiving. And then you have this one coming the day of Thanksgiving. And then you've got that by Friday. Now, watch this. Saturday, Sunday, very cold air coming into the northern plains. And most of our, forecast looks something like this. I got them all stacked up here. A lot of cold air being shoved into the central part of the United States while Alaska goes warm. And that's just typical. That's what it does. What we want to know is how long does it last? Because some of the seasonal forecasts are out now. And this is the new 1 month outlook from the European model, excuse me, from the Climate Prediction Center. That's not the Europeans. This is us in the States. That's their forecast for temperature and precip. Here's the European outlook on temperatures. So, Nick, I'm bringing this up because if we do freeze these soils in the upper Midwest, northern plains, you're not going to be able to fix any of that drought in the soil. It's just going to be there for a while, which is the big concern.
Yeah, and because then your next precipitation events will just kind of run off
Yeah.
and it won't get healed. I guess my pairing up precip with temperatures would be it looks like if there's ample snow that comes through, then it gets really cold. Winter kill issues probably will be minimized. I would assume depending on what kind of snow cover we get, or if there's not very much snow cover, I guess we could take one of the 9 lives out of the wheat
Out
crop,
of
I
the
guess.
way. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's got 9 lives, right? Like a cat.
that's what I tell you. Great website. This is my website, agweather.com. If you go to this site and come over here to this tab that says more weather and click on, no,
Hmm.
no, historical weather, and you slide down to the bottom, I do create maps. They're at the very bottom. Here they are, where we look at the seasonal snowfall. So
Hmm.
so far, this is where we are with seasonal snowfall. There's nothing abnormal about that. But what you're talking about is if we can't get, big snows into here to cover that weed up, then there's going to be
Hmm.
an issue. And last winter, we did. We had a big hole in the snow in the Midwest, upper Midwest, northern plains. So yeah, I'll be sure to, keep talking about that as we go forward. But
And it affected that Kansas crop early coming out of dormancy, but like I said, wheat just tends to have 9 lives and ended up fighting its way out of it.
yeah, well, April
So
brought rain. It was good
yeah,
rain in April, and that'll do it.
yep,
So,
yep, no,
all right, here's the last little thing I think we should talk about. We have
okay.
a La Nina. It is probably at its peak. What's interesting was I started looking back after getting a kind of an anonymous tip, if you will. I guess not anonymous. I know the guy's name's Dallas. He's down in, it's funny, his name's Dallas, but he lives in Oklahoma. But he's like, hey, man, could you go back and look at 2017? And if you look 2017, which is on the left, versus 2025 on the right, these look very similar in the ocean temperature pattern.
Very similar.
And
Yep.
what was interesting was, man, we were mild over the Southwest and very cold at times through the Midwest, upper Midwest, Northeast. We saw in December the West Coast went dry, which we're seeing some of that now, but it was also pretty dry across big sections of the Midwest, Southeast, Mid-Atlantic. I mean, there was just a dry December.
Hmm.
So I could buy that we might see something like this for temperatures, but I think we're going to have better moisture in the midsection of the country. By the way, this is how January to March panned out. Multiple Arctic outbreaks, really tough on spring calving here. Mild in the south, mild in the southeast, but super wet and at times very snowy in through this area, which was an interesting pattern to get into. It's just an analog year. We're going to take it at face value. Right now, the models look something like this. CPC just updated their forecast for December, January, February. You got temps on the left, precip on the right. Dawson and I have been going over this many times. There's no surprise here. They're just going full on La Nina like forecast. And then they have the rest of winter, February through April, looking like that. Yeah.
Wasn't there in the fall? Am I mistaken the year? Wasn't there a huge ice storm?
In 2017,
Was that year, or
ooh,
was it another year
I'd have to go back and look.
that kicked off like the very beginning of December? There was one of those years that it was super cold. It was
Yeah,
really early, just like that, and there was a big
may have
ice storm
been.
across the Midwest.
It may have been. I don't know. I think this
Yeah.
is a year where we could have that kind of stuff. I mean,
Okay.
What you want is contrast. I mean, look right in through here. Mild, more mild than normal to the south and more colder than normal to the top, to the west, to the north, excuse me.
Hmm.
So that just gets the jet stream screaming through the middle of this, which is why they've got, the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, Missouri, Mississippi Valley wet, but they have dry around it. That's going to be an interesting setup.
Hmm.
Okay, that's just a review of what's going on along range. Let's do this now. This is the last month's worth of precipitation by a dataset called CHIRPS, looking at Brazil only. And you can see that it was pretty dry, parts of Mato Grosso, but Goiás, Tocantins, this state's up here is called Para, pretty dry. Look at this. This was the forecast for that same time period. The GFS did fine. Europe,
Hmm.
terrible. Over predicted all of the rain. So then I'm like, okay, well, that was October 15 to November 15. What about just the last month? Here's the last month. Different map, but same idea. Drier, a little drier here. Wetter in Paraná, wetter down into Argentina, including Buenos Aires, Cordoba. But if you go look, these models were predicting dry here, and then they blew it north. Like both of them did terrible. So I'm sitting here going, okay, what do we trust? Because look what the models are doing right now. That's the new December forecast from the European model. It's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, make it really dry in Argentina, where it's not been dry yet. I don't understand it. It's got an extra 5 inches of rain right in through there, where it's been misforecasting. And the European model compared to the GFS, look at the GFS forecast. It's like, oh, drought for everybody. So my
Right.
point here is to say, do not trust these models right now. Don't trust them at all. Watch the daily rainfall, see how things are evolving, and remember that Brazil can always out acre a weather problem when they're putting in an extra 4% of acres. So we have to be
Hmm.
cautious with these forecasts. They might make headlines, but they're not really worth their weight at this particular point.
Is NDVI data worth anything yet
Not
down
yet.
there?
I'll
Too
show it
early?
quick. It's I'd much rather look at it late December. Let's see if I can get
It's
it.
a yeah. All right.
But well, let's just look at it. Let's mask it for crops. There we go. And we'll click on Mato Grosso. I mean, there you go.
Above average.
The current NDVI value is higher than the average.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paraná, which has been getting plenty of rain, it's now a new record high. So
Now, Parna, they're not quite done planting yet, right? Down
no, they
there?
won't be. And neither will Rio
Yeah.
Grande do Sul. They'll keep planting.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
see any red flags. And if we come down to Argentina, let's click on Buenos Aires. We'll add in Cordoba. We'll put in there Santa Fe and Entre Rios. I mean, look at that. That's their
Above
main
average.
area, and they are
Yeah.
also above their historical average. Here's average.
Hmm.
That's where they are. So I'm looking at all these forecasts going, what? Like, okay, I get it that the model says this, but it's not verified at all this year. So
All right.
this is a grain of salt forecast.
Yeah. And then really moving forward, like, you've been talking about La Nina here. Really, if that gets, I guess, a lot depends on that here moving forward, right? Or,
It does. I mean, if you have a La Nina, which we do, okay, you tend to say that southern Brazil and Argentina is drier, and this whole corridor I'm putting the arrow is wet. Like that's the trade-off.
hmm.
But it hasn't been doing that lately, and we've been in a La Nina year. So I'm just saying, I think this La Nina has its own flavor, and it's not necessarily playing out according to the historical precedent.
All right, Eric. Well, if you don't have anything else, I think that's a wrap. I think we
Okay.
got a nice little medium-term outlook here on the U.S. and current conditions down there in South America. If you don't have anything else, I guess we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good, man. Have a good Thanksgiving.
I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye.